One shocking thing that happened in the Las Vegas Raiders 2023 draft came on day 2 in the 3rd round when they did select the wide receiver out of Cincinnati, Tre Tucker, in the 3rd round. And not only is this guy a wide receiver who's a special teams specialist, kick return game, punt return game, but he is also a slot receiver, primarily a slot receiver. 95% of this guy's snaps come in the slot, and this is after the Raiders already signed Jacoby Myers, who's primarily a slot receiver, also DeAndre Carter. We're going to break down the future of Hunter Renfrow and how a trade could possibly be happening almost at any moment. We're going to dig into the contract situation, and because there's a lot of fifth-year options being declined around the NFL, players like Patrick Queen, the linebacker from the Baltimore Ravens, the Raiders have a lot of options. If they did want to move on from Hunter Renfrow, it could even be player for player. And so looking at the Raiders depth chart after free agency, after the draft, this is not exactly accurate from NFL rumors here. Jacoby Myers, DeAndre Carter, Philip Dorsett, I think Tre Tucker, who we mentioned just a little bit earlier, is higher on the depth chart quite possibly than these guys. If you're selecting him in the 3rd round, I think you're expecting the guy to contribute in many ways than just kick return and punt return. But you see Hunter Renfrow right here, right now, the 3rd wide receiver on the Raiders depth chart. They're going to have Michael Mayer too, who I think can be starting eventually at the tight end position. But the signing of Myers was the first domino to fall to make it seem like Renfrow's time could be coming to an end, especially given the fact that he had injury problems last year, and it's not entirely his fault, right? He had concussion problems, he had an oblique problem, all this was stacking up against him, so he wasn't able to contribute in any way, and it's always rough when you're not able to contribute immediately after you got a contract extension, which Hunter Renfrow did get just this past offseason. But part of the reason why Hunter Renfrow did get that contract extension is because quarterback Derek Carr definitely wanted that contract extension. He was lobbying for it, he was vocal about it on social media, but then you saw the regression due to injuries. 9 touchdowns in 2021 in the playoff, Rich Bisaccia Gruden cancellation season with over 1,000 yards there and 103 receptions. But no doubt there's regression, and there is a way for the Raiders to get out of this contract, even though they did just extend him this past year. So Renfrow's contract was a 2-year contract at about $32 million, so $16 million a year, a little above that. And if they did move on from him this year, you see this big dead cap hit, and you're like, wow, there's no way they could move on from Renfrow because they'd be losing so much money. They wouldn't even free more than what they would eat with him not on the roster. But if you look a little closer, according to Spotrac here, if they did trade Renfrow after June 1st, if this was a post June 1st trade, well, then you're only eating $6 million in dead money this year, clearing up $6.9 million, essentially saving $800,000 against the cap this year, and then eating $5.5 million next year. So it's spread out. It's not like if they were, moved on from him before June 1st, then you would eat about $11 million this year, and that'd be way too much for the Raiders to handle. But if you spread it out over 2 years, clear up some money this year, the Raiders could definitely make this happen if there is another buyer who wants to give up enough draft compensation for Hunter Renfrow. And when you look at what the Raiders got for Darren Waller, a 3rd round pick from the New York Giants, it seems like that's the type of compensation they would expect for somebody like Hunter Renfrow, who's in a similar situation as Waller, had injuries, was not able to play, even though he just got a contract extension. So not only has Patrick Queen had his 5th-year option decline, but many other players around the NFL, and the Raiders could maybe say, hey, let's trade player for player. This is worth a 3rd round pick for me. They can, pick up a lot of people who had their 5th-year option decline. You have Cesar Ruiz from the New Orleans Saints, had his 5th-year option decline. That would be a good guard for the Raiders. And we know Chase Young had his 5th-year option decline, had some injury issues, but the Raiders have a lot of edge defenders, so I don't see them doing that. Or maybe the Raiders could take a chance on Javon Kinlaw of the San Francisco 49ers. The former 1st-round pick defensive tackle has not been productive there, has some problems, but man, does he have the physical traits to possibly go off. Maybe they could take a flyer on him for Hunter Renfrow. Patrick Queen seems like he would fill more of a role for the Raiders since they did not draft a linebacker high at all, and he had a bounce back season last year, playing the most snaps he's ever played, picking up 7 sacks with 2 interceptions and 3 pass breakups. That's some impressive stuff with a 70.0 PFF grade. And not only do we need to monitor the Hunter Renfrow situation since the Raiders have like a million slot receivers right now, but we all got to pay attention to Josh Jacobs. He made some comments on social media on Snapchat that were kind of odd. This is what he said on Snapchat. This is not Instagram, by by the way. I saw people getting confused. This is Snapchat and Josh Jacobs, and this was April 28th after day 1 of the NFL draft. Jacobs said, haven't been in Vegas for like 2 months now, don't plan on coming back no time soon. So the reason why this is a big concern is because there are going to be some practices, some meetings, mandatory meetings that the Raiders will have during this time. So if Josh Jacobs is saying that he has no plans to be coming back soon, means he doesn't plan on signing the franchise tag soon. So the reason why Jacobs cannot participate in any of these activities is because he has not signed the tag. He is refusing to sign the tag because he wants a long-term contract. But ultimately, because of the running back market, unless the Raiders trade away Josh Jacobs, he's likely going to be in Vegas. He's going to be a part of the Las Vegas Raiders. They tagged him, so I think he is going to have to do it after July. He's pretty much forced to play on the tag, and it seems like the Raiders gave that tag because they wanted to make sure he stays on the roster. I don't think they would tag this guy with the intention of trading him. Plus, couple this with the fact that the Raiders did not really add any talent at running back throughout the draft. They still just have Zamir White as the running back number 2, so they really don't have a backup plan if Jacobs is not around. Either way, let me know what you think is going to happen. Are the Raiders moving on from Hunter Renfrow, and what should they get for him? Should they grab Patrick Queen, or should they go out there and just try to get a 3rd round pick or something like that? And should they maybe throw him a bone and let him link up with Derek Carr, the New Orleans Saints? I don't know. You tell me. Either way, like this video if you have not yet, and subscribe to this channel for more Raiders content, and check out some of these other videos you may have missed. My name is WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.